Hi, everybody. Eric here with Smart Pot Fabric Planters, back with another episode of the Growing Revolution podcast. And we've got a special guest, a genuine plant scientist and kind of a legend in the hydroponics field. Harley Smith is with us today, all the way from Michigan. And Harley, thanks for joining us here.
My pleasure.
Awesome. Yeah. Harley and I actually go way back from our time at NPK Industries, and now we've kind of found different homes. And I thought it would be great to interview Harley and kind of, document his history in the world of plant science and pick his brain a little bit. So we're going to jump right into it. So Harley, you've been involved in plant science and specifically hydroponics longer than most people have even known of what hydroponics is. Can you tell us about yourself and your background and how you got involved in plant science in the first place?
Okay, yeah. I actually kind of came in the back door. I didn't start out as a grower and then develop my interest early on. I used to be a video producer. And I was doing videos on science and technology back in the 80s, the early 90s. Had my own business. And, I was working pretty hard trying to dig up some new works, find some new cutting edge science to talk about. And I contacted a company in Lansing, Michigan called Superior Grower Supply. They were in the top 10 manufacturers in Lansing at the time. Just called, introduced myself, cold call. Just said, hey, I'm new in the area. I'm a video producer. I'd like to talk to you about your needs. And I got lucky, talked to the owner of the company instead of a secretary. And he said, yeah, sure, come on in. So we talked a little bit. And he said, we really need a video on introduction to hydroponics for the schools. A lot of schools back then were just dabbling in hydroponics as a way to teach plant science. So I said, sure. I was hungry. Let's do it. Let's do a program. So I had no understanding, no background at that point. That was back in 1995. No background in hydroponics. Well, I take that back. I did a little experiment back in the 60s when I was in 7th grade or something. I did a hydroponics experiment. But basically, I started out my first interview question, what is hydroponics? I knew nothing. That was the beginning. But by the time I did the interviews with him, went through his library, custom library, and talked to some of the best hydroponics minds around the world, NASA scientists, commercial growers, educators, I wrote the script, did the first video, and I said, this is real. There's a future for that here in the United States. At that time, we were importing more hydroponically grown food than we were producing in this country. So we were importing food, exporting money, exporting jobs. I said, there's got to be a future here. So that first video turned into a series of videos, and they offered me a job specifically promoting hydroponics to schools nationwide and setting up hydroponics labs. That's how I got my foot in the door to hydroponics. And from there, it just one thing leads to another.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's I think that's an awesome, anecdote for people who, might have no knowledge of hydroponics or plant science at all. Like, look at Harley Smith, he's a wealth of information on plant science, and he started out, at basically a base level of plant science knowledge. And just from, reading and talking to other people and researching, you can go from novice to expert, a lot quicker than you probably think you can. So that's an awesome story to tell to people. So from SGS, you went over to HDI, who, for people who don't know, they're the makers of Clonex. And how did you get involved with them? And then you came up with the mother plant product. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. Well, one thing, you don't really have to be a genius to do hydroponics. I mean, it's really, really simple. I was teaching fifth graders how to do hydroponics. And even were setting up their own business in the classroom. I mean, it's not that hard, the basics. But if you really want to go far, you need to have a curious mind. Keep asking questions. Don't just say, well, here's a bottle of fertilizer. Well, what's in it? How does it work? And the more that you are curious, the more that you learn, the faster you grow. And as you, after a while, you can start making connections. And for HD, I made connections. Back in 2001, I was invited to the Netherlands. Went to Amsterdam, had a good time. But to interview some of the very first scientific applications on organic biostimulants, which at that time were quite revolutionary, bloom stimulants. They were increasing yields by 20% or more. Even when they considered it the genetic potential of the plant, they were able to increase it. All natural. So I was curious. There we go again. What's in it? How does it work? They wouldn't tell me. They said it was proprietary. It took us 10 years to learn this. We're just not going to give you the secrets. We're not going to tell you.
Gotta pay to play.
So I had to pay to play. I had to pay my own dues. Went back. I saw it with my own eyes. I also, by the way, they were using it to help with plant protection, improving the plant's natural resistance to pest and disease. They were eliminating powdery mildew and molds to zero and increasing yields without any pesticides, without any fungicides. So it was important. I knew this was an important thing to learn. It took me years, but I cracked it. I can tell you the story some other time, but I cracked it. There were a couple of you know this one. There were a couple amino acids, glutamic acid and glycine, that literally stimulate root cells to open calcium ion channels. Takes up more calcium, strengthens the vascular system, the plant distributes water and minerals, the Brix goes up, the natural resistance goes up, and yield. I mean, it's all, and nature's been doing it without our help for thousands of years with microorganisms in the soil. So, but once I finally made that connection, I got the white jacket, and they invited me to be the director of research for Hydrodynamics International, the Clonex people, and that was a break. And one of my first project was to develop a nutrient solution specifically for mother plants. So I applied what I learned.
How would you say that the mother plant product differs from like other base nutrient programs?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, the first thing is to reduce the nitrogen. A grow formula for production has, maybe not luxury levels, but high levels of nitrogen, and it burns up a lot of the energy in the top growth, which looks good, but it doesn't have a lot of stored sugars. So the first thing, reduce the nitrogen to the low end of sufficiency. Not deficient, but low end of sufficiency.
Basically, where you left off, you were talking about kind of the difference between the mother plant and the base nutrients.
Okay. Yeah, the main difference to start is reducing the amount of nitrogen. Most of our grow formulas for production are pretty high in nitrogen. And nitrogen's a luxury element. You give it more than what the plant needs, it'll assimilate it. But it burns up the energy of photosynthesis when it does it. It burns off the energy for top growth, but it's not stored energy. What we want in moms is a lot of stored energy. So when you take the cutting, it roots faster, the mother repairs itself faster. You want tighter nodes, you don't want stretching. So reduce the nitrogen to the low end of sufficiency, and then did a 1-to-1 potassium to nitrogen ratio. because excess potassium tends to translocate the nitrates to the shoots, so you get stretching again. So cut that back. That was first for the minerals. The next part was the biostimulants that I learned about in my research because of what I learned in the Netherlands. I added some biostimulants, especially amino acids. Two of the amino acids, glutamic acid and glycine, stimulate root cells to open calcium ion channels. The plant takes up more calcium, strengthens the vascular system, the water and nutrients are transported and translocated more efficiently. The Brix goes up, more chemical reactions, lots of sugars, and they're stored in the tissue. So those were the two main things. I also wanted to stimulate good balanced root growth. So we have a sponge of roots for the moms, so they can take up more water and minerals and then pull them into the tissue with the mother plant nutrient. And there was one more part with that, and that was a foliar spray. You can use some of the kelp, humic acid, 5 parts humic acid, 2 parts kelp. Add a little aminos to it if you want, optionally. Spray it 2 weeks before you take cuttings. The cytokinins in the kelp literally pull the nutrients into the tissue, pull in the sugars, pull in the amino acids, pull in the minerals. So we push it from the base, we pull it from the top, take cuttings, and they have a very, very good success rate.
Yeah, it makes sense. Give your mother plants, a nice balanced, nutrition plate to eat off of, and you get great results. Makes sense to me. So after HDI, you joined up with NPK Industries. That's where I met you. And can you talk a little bit about your time with them and what your main roles were there?
I was the director of research. I met some of the principals of NPK at a trade show, and they had this beautiful booth. You probably remember it. It had all these different minerals and biostimulants on it. And I said, oh, wow, there's humic acid. Oh, look, there's fulvic acid. Oh, there's kelp extracts. These are the things I've been working with for years. I said, boy, they have it together.
Yeah, the building blocks of what we've been using.
Yeah, they were all there. I said, oh, yeah, this is good stuff. They know what they're doing. And then I saw the yucca extracts that they had, and that was my little secret ingredient in my mother plant, because it was a good wetting agent. It helped the nutrients spread out in the roots better to get to all the root hairs. I said, when I saw that, I was sold. I said, this company is a good company. They know what they're doing. So I said, this is a great product. I talked to some of the people there in the booth. I said, that education is kind of key, because people will see all these things, but they need to know how to use them. So they chased me down and said, hey, would you write some articles for us? Would you help us do some educational materials? I said, be happy to. That started out, and then they said, well, we want you full time. So they hired me and started working with growers all over the country. We were doing some workshops and seminars together, remember? You go into some hydro stores, broadcast it, Q&A. And it was good for them. They sold more product. It's good for me. That's what I enjoy doing and very comfortable with, like we're doing right here. And then I got to move out west. I got to move out to Oregon, and we built a lab. We built a lab for tissue testing, nutrient testing, ICP OES spectrometer, so we could do soil analysis, water analysis, plant tissue analysis. Not only see what we're giving the plant, we can actually see what the plant's taking up and accumulating. So I was able to use that to help the growers on the West Coast, to like a roadmap for their fine-tuning and steering their crops with their nutrients. And that was a very, very powerful combination. Not just mixing a nutrient to give them, but to be able to fine-tune that according to the specific needs of the plant.
Yeah, and really, it all kind of boils down to education. You know, if people understand the products that they're using, they're going to feel more comfortable. They're going to use them better. And I think plant science can be a dry subject, but the way that you present, these elements and organic biostimulants, it's in a way that doesn't put people to sleep, and actually it gets them like interested about this, and empowers them to make their garden the best it can be. So I'd say for anybody who hasn't seen Harley's educational videos on YouTube, just search Harley Smith. There's a bunch of videos that he's done over the years. Definitely raise your grower IQ with Harley. So, kind of getting into, as a segue, many people assume that you've got like multiple master's degrees and doctorates in plant science, even though, you don't have a formal education in that area. What would you say to young people who want to get to your level of knowledge but don't necessarily have the time or money for college? How did you get to be, where you're at? Where are you pulling your information from?
Well, you need to learn from the people that know. You learn from the growers. You learn from the scientists, the plant scientists. You need to have mentors, and I did, from all over the world, from Australia, from the UK, from the United States. At that time, I learned from those that knew the most. But here's the thing, we have one advantage these days, and I'm so thankful to be alive in this age because we have the internet. Now, there's a lot of misinformation out there. Everybody has an opinion, right? And it can get very confusing. But I'm going to give you a trick. I'll give you a little lesson. If you're going to do a keyword search, a Google search, do it this way. Type the word plant, physiology, and then whatever keyword that you're interested in. Plant physiology, and then your keyword. And the more technical the keyword, the better. I would get textbooks. I'm not saying education is a waste. No, I was getting college textbook on plant physiology, microbiology, biochemistry. I was doing the work. But I just wasn't doing it in a formal way. But then I'd learn one new technical term, add that to my search. Plant physiology, amino acids, calcium. And then it would take me to the science literature, not to all the advertising hype and opinions. Then I'd learn to skim through hundreds and hundreds of abstracts. And I'd just looking for clues.
Yeah.
And then I'd find something interesting, and then I'd read the conclusion at the end. The abstract, conclusion. And then if I was really interested, there's something here, then I go in and look at the materials and methods and how they did it. But I can't tell you how many hours I've spent at just 2 o'clock in the morning every night for years, just looking for clues, and I didn't even know what I was looking for. But eventually, it comes together.
Yeah.
And then the other part, for growers, no substitute for experience. Yeah, you can read the books. That's good. You can do the research. Good. You learn the vocabulary. Great. But growing, observing the plant, seeing how they respond. Remember.
Yeah, trial and error.
Trial and error, and trial and success. I remember when I got my very first light. And I was able to set up my very first indoor garden. Wow, watch them grow. I read in the book, hydroponics, you grow herbs in hydroponics, there'll be 18% more essential oils than field grown. Well, I actually did it. Let's grow some. Wow, the restaurant owners are saying, this is the best basil I have ever seen in my life. You go, oh, right. Okay, this is real. And I could see it. And then I got a couple of lights, started doing a little more experience, and then I loved it. The hobby was it just drew me in. More than the knowledge up here. The plants themselves drew me in. Full spectrum light, fruit on the vine, aromatic herbs, fast, healthy growths. Uh, it was
Yeah.
an oasis of life. The first thing I do, I get home, I go to the basement, to my garden and tinker around. Stress of the day would go away completely, and I was making observations on how the plants grew. And that is, without that, there's nothing. And all that stuff, that research I did, no, it didn't even come together until I was sent a biostimulant product, an experimental one from a vitamin manufacturer out east, and I actually tried to use it in some of my hydroponic systems, and
Yeah.
that's where it came together. That's where became real.
Yeah. Reading and research, will take you far, but actually putting it to work and, trying it out, that's where you get to see the fruits of your labors. And that's where you get the real enjoyment is actually, consuming and using your plants too. So after you were with NPK, you got snagged by Total Health Cultivation, Light Sky Farms back in Michigan. How did they snag you for their team, and what are you doing for them currently?
Well, the main grower there, the director of cultivation, I've known him for many years. In fact, he was in my very first live class on hydroponics, my first Master Grower series many years ago. He got his very first diploma from me, so we've known each other for a long time. And I ran into him in a hydro store one time where he was having some problems um, in his grow, because it was in Flint, and he was having a bacterial problem. It was actually a symbiont. In the end, it was an algae symbiotic with bacteria, very nasty combo. And he wanted me to try. He brought me in just to try to help him solve his problem. And I actually wasn't able to solve it. you know, and I hate to admit that on camera, but that was one of the very first times. My advice to him in the end was, take them out of your hydroponic system and transplant them into soil, because then there's no competition. The cleaner we made the system, the worse it got. So it was just
Mm.
so that was, we had to put him into soil just so that there was some competition and he was able to salvage the crop. But anyway, but
Yep.
in the process, we did our science Saturdays, and I was teaching them things, and we were applying what we learned and trying to solve these problems together. But later on, I thought, well, I failed, right? So he's not going to be talking to me again. But when they built this commercial facility, I think it's 65,000 square feet here. Um, he wanted me.
Wow.
He wanted me on his team. So he made me a good offered to hire Sue too. And we wanted to move back to Michigan anyway. Sue wanted to be closer to family. So let's do it. So they hired me as the chief science officer. So my job is not working every day with the plants, it's working every day with the leads and with the growers and trying to solve problems and try to make improvements. I also develop all their nutrients. They have a nutrient formula, Eric, a specific formula for every 2 weeks in the plant's grow. So I'm able to ramp down certain elements, ramp up others. We're doing sap analysis, we're doing leaf analysis. So I'm able to.
How high is your bricks level on your plants,
Uh,
Harley? What are you
well, on the
averaging?
mothers, we'll get up to 12 and beyond. But I think in the production plants, not quite as high, but we're definitely above average, about 8 or 9, somewhere in there. That's good. I mean, it's the final product that we're concerned with, and when we're doing production, we need to get the yield too. Sometimes you can do
Yeah.
both. If you get the bricks just right, you get quality and yield. Um, but it has to. Sometimes we have to make compromises, because you'll have two different
Makes sense.
cultivars in the same room, and you'll have
Yeah.
one that has a little bit of a magnesium deficiency. The next bench over, though, same feed, they have a little potassium deficiency. Okay, we have to kind of compromise. If I add more magnesium, then that could make the potassium deficiency worse. If I add more potassium, it can make the magnesium deficiency worse. So we kind of have to
Yeah.
not go for the ideal per strain or per cultivar. We have to find one that there's no toxicities, no deficiencies, and that we're getting consistent, reproducible results and paying the bills. So it's a little bit different
Yeah.
with commercial.
Yeah, consistency, in commercial cultivation is everything because, if you lose a whole crop, that can mean, tens of thousands of dollars that are now, missing for paying water and power bills and employee salaries. So, yeah, you don't want to mess up a run. Um, So over at THC Light Sky Farms, you guys are doing your cultivation in Rockwool cubes, but your mother plants are in fabric pots. What do you notice about or what are your thoughts behind keeping mothers in fabric pots versus growing them hydroponically?
Well, we're still growing hydroponically. Um, we're using Rockwell but the grow cubes, we call them the croutons, as our growing medium. We start in the
Mm-hmm.
blocks and then transplant them. But the biggest advantage there is with the mothers, we're hand watering. We're using the wands, and it's a lot easier to go through those benches and water the plants according to their needs. Because some mothers take up a lot more water, others they don't need to be watered. So we have a little bit more of a hands-on approach that way. And we still make the mother plant nutrient, and we're mixing in some of the biostimulants, but we can be a little more specific in how they're handled. And healthy moms, healthy clones. So that's one of it, and we get good drainage and good aeration compared to plastic pots. So we love it, and we are setting up some now. We're going to be setting up some automatic irrigation too, mainly for the weekends when people are away, so that you don't have to come
It makes
in
sense.
all the time, and you can walk away for 2 or 3 days and come back and see how they're doing. So that's why when we're in the slabs and the blocks, it's really hard to hand water. You really need to have drip irrigation system of some kind.
Yeah, makes sense. Now, I haven't been out to Michigan in a number of years. How would you say the current state of the cannabis industry is out there? I know Michigan has gone recreational with cannabis. Would you say that's been a good thing for the industry? Neutral, bad? How has recreational cannabis been for Michigan?
Generally speaking, it's great. I love to see, drive down the highway, we're seeing billboards left and right. New dispensaries are coming online all the time, which is a market for us as growers. The bad side is with the rec is there's the industry is still young. People don't, they're just looking at what's the THC value. What's the price? What's the highest THC? And over time, if breeders are coming up with higher and higher THC, they may be breeding out inadvertently some of the medicinal components. Remember, I don't know if you know this, but lettuce used to be a medicinal herb. It was a medicinal herb years
Mm,
ago. Yeah, and
wow.
then they bred out all the bitter components, and they bred out all the medicine. I just hope that we don't do the same
Wow.
thing because of being driven by the market. But I have hope though. There's more of an emphasis on terpenes now. There are some emphasis too on some of the minor cannabinoids like THCV, of course the CBDs, some of those. Um, so it's not completely bad, but if we just went down the recreational side and just went for getting high, getting stoned, I think that in the end we'd look back and regret some of the gifts of that plant to the human race.
Yeah, I think recreational is kind of coming along just at the right time to get people thinking, okay, it's not just THC. There's many medicinal compounds in cannabis, and there's a few farms that I've come across that are focusing on like CBD. Like Yerba Buena Farms out in Portland, like half of what they grow is actually like a 1-to-1 or a CBD dominant, and they're actually killing it, in their market. While most growers are focusing on THC, they're focusing on CBD, and the people who, want to feel good but not high are gravitating towards their products. And, kudos to them for, finding their niche and running with it.
Yeah.
So I guess looking forward, what do you think are like the main challenges for Light Sky Farms in terms of production and growing, and maybe just for the cannabis industry in general? Like, what do you see as issues, like on the horizon, or something that you guys are dealing with on a regular basis?
Yeah. Well, we have some of the same challenges that you had out west for years. When it first comes onto the market, it's legalized. The supply and demand. There's a lot more demand than there's supply. The prices are high. But then everyone says, oh, well, I want to make $1 million too. I want to get rich. So they start growing. And the next thing you know, there's a glut. We're overproducing and the prices come down. And that's always a challenge. If we try to do a business model, we try to know what our expenses are, what our labor costs are, our licensing costs, all those things, and be able to produce a high quality product. And we really want that craft quality. That's first in our minds always as growers. But
Top shelf.
But as the margins go down, it makes it more difficult. We have to be more efficient with our labor, more efficient with our nutrients, more efficient with our water use and electricity. So I think that's a challenge with our indoor growing. I think in the future, where we're going to need to go is into some more light depth, like we'd have out west a little bit more, so we have a little bit less energy budget. You know what energy costs are doing? You can see it. It's not going to get cheaper. It's going to get more expensive. In our facility, we use so many megawatts here. I think we use more in this facility than the entire city of Burton in this one facility for electricity.
Do you know what your monthly power bill is for the facility?
I do not want to know. I know it's high. I don't want to know. And that's a reality, is that we need to be energy efficient in the future. We have to find ways to do that. And I think I know where our research is going. That's where I want to do too. I want to help improve the efficiency of the electron transport chain. I want to harness some of the power of nature with some of the biostimulants, some of the microbes in the soil. I want to be able to help the plants grow, reach their genetic potential, even if the environment isn't perfect. Right now, we're concentrated on making a perfect environment, but Michigan is not a great place to grow tropical plants. So we're going to have to find the genetics that are adapted to this environment and then help them reach their potential. So we have challenges in the future, but it's exciting at the same time, because those discoveries are going to help out agriculture in general. Things that we're learning. When I learned how to use biostimulants to reduce the use of reduce powdery mildew to zero, that can be used in cherries and apples and grapes too. It's not like
a plant is a plant.
It's not just for, I can grow lettuce that's gourmet quality, where the bricks is off the shelf, where you never have to spray for bugs, and it has a lot more flavor and vitamins. That's part of what I'm concentrating on in the future. And cannabis is a vehicle to do the research and to be able to spread this knowledge, plant science to the world.
Yep. Yeah, I think the cannabis industry is kind of unique in that, the producers are kind of hungry for the cutting edge, the new technology, the new nutrients, the new biostimulants, whereas, traditional commercial agriculture, they're more concerned about the bottom line, and they don't really care if, it's good for us or the environment. It's like, will it make us money? So I'm proud to be, a part of the cannabis industry. And I think, overall, we're doing great work for the planet. So, kind of getting into my last question, you've helped so many people over the years better understand their fertilizer products and to better understand their plants. What do you want your legacy to be, and what are you most proud of from all the things that you've accomplished?
Legacy. Well, what I'm most proud of, what I'm most proud of is people like you. People that you've been through the classes, you've applied what you've learned. You've taken it to another level. The best.
I thought I knew a lot about plants, and then I met you, and you took my level, up to close to where you're at.
But when people come back to me years later, say, you taught me how to improve my plants. You got me thinking about spoon feeding, about giving the plant exactly what they need when they need it, and I applied what you learned. They come back and teach me something. That they've taken the stuff I've learned, taught them on biostimulants, and they're telling me about, transcription factors that they're able to stimulate now. That thrills me. I mean, my hair stands up on that, because that's what it's about, trying to make the world a better place. I profit from the inventions and discoveries of others, and that's when I build on it. And it's only fair that others in the future profit and benefit from the discoveries that I've made, the hard work. I'm just a pioneer, I'm a trailblazer, but that's not the end. That's just the beginning of a path. And if I can be part of that, I'm proud. I'm proud of the cannabis being finally reestablished on this planet as a medicinal herb, it always has been. I want to try to improve the quality of life for people, and I want to protect the environment. And we're doing all those things. It's not just about the money. It's working with nature. It's being able to improve the nutritional value of food, being able to improve the medicinal qualities of our medicinal herbs, to discover them and improve them, and to improve the plant's natural resistance to pest and disease, and preserve the environment, so that we're good stewards of our earth and working with nature. I think that's the purpose of all human beings. That's our place in the scheme of things here, is we have intelligence. We can work with nature in an intelligent way and give it a little boost in the right direction. And if we do, everyone's going to increase the value.
Yeah. I think all the tools, for a successful life are, at our disposal. We just need to, take in the knowledge to use it properly, and, be good stewards of the planet, like you're talking about, and, leave it in a better condition for the next generation. Mm-hmm. So, your work and knowledge in the Department of Plant Science is invaluable. So that's why I wanted to get you on here, Harley, is because you're a champion for good things in our industry and just in general. So I wanted to thank you. And I guess on that note, I wanted to thank you for joining us today. This has been awesome to talk to you again, because I used to talk to you on such a regular basis. And, just really appreciate your time joining us here today on the Growing Revolution podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's great to see you again, Eric, and catch up. We have to talk again later when we finish the presentation here. And I want to get I need input from you too, and what you're seeing in the industry and what's the latest and greatest. So we can help each other. All of us. I think
that's what
it's
all
all
about.
of us as growers can help each other if we're not, so bent and we got to be in the competition. We need it, but I think still the recipes we'll keep, the secret recipes, but the science should be shared freely.
Nice. Well, Harley, again, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. And how can people keep in touch with you? Are you on Instagram or any social media outlets?
To a degree, I'm not teaching my class.
Telegraph, messenger pigeon.
You're going to have to help me with that part. I need to get back into the social media. I'm not doing classes at the moment. I'm taking a sabbatical because it's just this facility is, in these first couple of years here, is very demanding of time and resources. But I plan on doing classes again. They can, if they want to see some of my past classes that are online, just Google Harley Smith YouTube. They'll take you to a lot of them. If you want to reach me personally, our Instagram is Harley500 is my Instagram thing. And you have my email address. If you want to post that, that's fine too.
Well, we might get some weirdos contacting you, so maybe we'll let them filter through Instagram, and that you can talk to them from there.
Oh, there's, I don't mind. I get fan mail all the time, but I just don't have time to do a lot of personal time like I used to with some of the growers. Can't spend hours and hours teaching them how to grow. But there's a lot of good information if you go to YouTube.
Yeah, I would say.
YouTube, so.
Yeah, people need to just go to YouTube and search Harley Smith and, just watch all of your videos, and, you'll be at a very high level of plant science knowledge in a pretty short amount of time. Okay. So, again, Harley, thank you so much for your time, and, we'll be looking forward to what you're doing at Late Sky Farms and keeping in touch with you.
Catch up with you later.